Good morning, and thank you for joining us today. I'm Chloe Hayes, Investor and Media Relations Manager at Breakthrough Minerals. It's an exciting time for the company, and we're thrilled to share more details around the transformational acquisition of the Errolls Gold Project in WA. I'm joined today by Non-executive Director Will Dix, who's going to walk us through the recently lodged investor presentation, followed by some Q&A. Will, I'll hand it over to you.
Thanks, Chloe. Great to be here. So it's an interesting time for the company, and as you mentioned, we've just signed an agreement to purchase the Errolls Gold Project at the northern end of the Barrambie Greenstone Belt. And this changes everything about the company. It sets us on a new path, and we're really excited for the future. So what I'll do today is just walk through a little bit of the background on the project, a little bit about what we'd like to do next, and what I hope investors will take away from that is that we've got a shallow, high-grade gold project that's really underexplored and has a lot of opportunity for us to grow in a short period of time. So just the standard disclaimers through the document. A little bit of a scene of where we are. So we sit in the Barrambie Greenstone Belt, as I mentioned, sort of halfway between Meekatharra and Sandstone in the Murchison Mineral Field, Western Australia. There's a lot going on in the gold space over here, as everyone knows, and the Barrambie Greenstone Belt is right in the middle of that. Historically, at Errolls itself, there's been a little bit of mining back in the 1930s, so it was a long time ago, but it produced over 5,000 ounces at a really high grade of 17.5 grams a tonne. We know that we won't be able to produce at exactly that sort of grade, but if you bulk that out, we're still confident that anything we do in the future will have a really nice high grade to it. And the key really to everything we're doing up at Errolls is it's shallow and it's high grade. And that's something that you'll hear me say a few times. So, drill intercepts that we've seen before, 20 odd metres at 7.5 grams a tonne, numbers like that. The average RC depth is shallow. It's only 34 metres and very, very few holes below 50 metres. Most of the oxide seems to be pretty nicely mineralised around the veins and around the deposit. And what happens at depth is something that we're going to unlock over the next few months. Sandstones to the south of us, Meekatharra's to the north. They're well-known greenstone belts. They're well endowed. Breakthrough is right in the middle of all of that. And we've got Bright Star to the south at Sandstone, and we've got Horizon Gold floating around as well. So a little bit more about Barrambie itself. It's a narrow north-northwest trending greenstone belt. It's made up of mafics and sediments. There's granites to the west of us, there's further granites to the east of us, and what we're really interested in is the you and me shear zone that runs right through the middle of the greenstone belt. We think that is what controls the bulk of the gold mineralisation, and it's the structures associated with that we're going to be chasing. And the reason it's sitting there unexplored is that no one's really put it together for the last 25 years. It's had bits and pieces on it, bit of work in the 80s, but nothing really systematic and concentrated in the northern part of the Barrambie Greenstone Belt, although everywhere around us, south of us, good mineralisation in the neometals ground, around 10 grams a tonne, and different styles of mineralisation as well. So it gives us plenty to chase going forward. So just a little bit on the corporate overview of the company. So we've reconstructed the business over the last 6 months, and then post the completion of the Errolls Gold acquisition, we're going to have around about 68 million shares on issue, over $2.5 million in the bank, and an enterprise value of about $2.5 million. That's all post the completion of the transaction. It's got a really strong board with Graham Robertson, Chairman, Peretz Shapiro as our Executive Director, and myself doing a bit of the technical work. And, we feel we're really well set up over the next few months to take advantage of a really strong gold market. A little bit of detail on the Errolls project itself. So we've got a very, very strong gold mineralised area just at the southern part of the deposit of the project down through here. We have a mining lease application over the top of that as well. But one of the interesting things for us is that the southern end of it is significantly under-drilled compared to the northern end. And through the centre, you can see these historical results that are listed on the slide there. Things like 11 metres at just under 7, 22 metres at 7.5, and 9 metres at 3. So there's a whole bunch of really good results, and we're going to follow those up with a bunch of drilling to the south of the prospect itself. There's other areas that are undrilled completely, that if you look at the magnetics and if you look at some of the other offsets that are similar to what we see at Errolls, we believe there's other areas within the project that have potential for additional mineralised zones, and we'll certainly be following those up over the next 6 to 12 months as well. Errolls itself is an historic gold centre. All through the Barrambie Greenstone Belt, there was prospecting work done through the 1920s and 1930s, but no real consistent exploration up until the 80s, where some shallow work was done south of Errolls, mainly around Neo Metals' project, where they have an exploration target that sits between 8 million tonnes at 1.3 grams a tonne and 10.5 million tonnes at 2.5 grams a tonne. So you're talking in the order of 500,000 ounces. And at Errolls, we feel that we can add to that sort of greenstone belt endowment with, up to another couple of 100,000 ounces. That's what we're aiming for at the Errolls Gold Project. So just a little bit on the transaction summary. So we actually end up with 100% of the asset. It's costing us $150,000 in cash and 3.5 million breakthrough shares. So we feel that we've got a really, really good deal on a gold project in a fantastic gold market. There's a couple of steps of performance rights attached to the asset, but they involve us having drilling success with a number of intersections at certain cutoffs that you can see there. All of the stock that we hand over to the vendors is going to be escrowed for 6 months. And as we mentioned in the corporate slide, there's a capital raise that goes alongside this transaction, and all of that will settle as part of an extraordinary general meeting later on in the year. So what are we going to do next at Errolls? So the key for us is obviously to complete the deal, but then we're really keen to go drilling. And as part of that process, we proactively lodged a POW with the Mines Department here in WA. We're hoping to get that granted in the next 2 or 3 weeks, which is going to be ahead of the time that we can actually drill with the deal completing, but means we'll be set up and ready to go. So once we have the tenure transferred into our name, we'll be getting rigs on site, or an RC rig on site, fairly quickly, and we're going to test to the south, down plunge, along strike, and we're also going to test those other areas that we've highlighted. So, it's an exciting time to be a breakthrough shareholders. There's lots going on. There'll be significant news flow over the next 3 to 6 months, and we're confident we're going to have some success up within the Barrambie Greenstone Belt. And that is just the risks that are associated with the asset and with the completion of the deal. And there's a number of those you can read. And I think that is it. That's it. That's the last of the slides.
Thanks, Will. Exciting times ahead. I might get you to stop sharing your screen and we can jump into some Q&A.
Sure.
Perfect. So first up, Will, let's start with the bigger picture. This acquisition has been called company making. Can you tell us what makes the Errolls Gold Project so significant for Breakthrough?
Yeah, sure. Well, we've transformed the company, like I mentioned, and over the last few months, we've been searching high and low for a really good asset to put into the company. And we think that having Errolls in there sets us on a completely new path, and there's a lot of upside associated with the project. We're going to take advantage of the gold price and a really strong gold market. And we think with the exploration potential there that, it's a project that's going to deliver for us.
And Will, the announcement highlights some very impressive historical figures. What do those results tell you about the project's potential?
Shallow and high grade, Chloe, that's the key to this for us. We really like the fact that we're confident we can walk in there, we can drill holes that are 50 metres, sub 50 metres depth, and we're going to hit high grade gold mineralisation. It's an interesting part of the world in that we know the gold's controlled by a major shear zone, but often what you see is gold, in secondary structures and things like that, and we'll chase those and we'll have a really good crack at those shallow high grade intersections.
And on that note of the shallow intersections, the average historical drill depth is around 34 metres. How much opportunity is there to test for mineralisation at depth and along strike?
Yeah, a lot of opportunity. We've spent a bit of time modelling the data that we've got. We've put it into 3D software, as you do, and we can see obvious trends that suggest that it's open down plunge. There is a plunge component to the drilling at Errolls, and it's completely untested to the south of us. So that's where our initial focus will be, as well as later on those other structures. But we're excited to get a rig out there and to test our theories.
And you've got walk-up drill targets and a program of work already submitted. How quickly can investors expect drilling to begin, and what will the first phase of exploration focus on?
Yeah, so the key in the short term is to get the deal completed, and we need to do that before we can go and start drilling. But once that's done, we'll be up there straight away drilling. We'll drill to the south. We'll chase that high grade to the south and at depth. And I think in the next few months that shareholders are going to see a lot of news flow come through. Something that's interesting as well is that we have got some old metallurgical data. We are looking at that. We're going to put that together and make sure that we can report it appropriately. And once that comes out, we're pretty confident that that's going to be pretty good data as well for us, and that's going to have some good results.
Right. And the project sits on the same greenstone belt as Neometal's Barrambie project. How does that regional context support your confidence in the assets?
Yeah, so we sit at the northern end of the Barrambie Belt, and the whole belt itself is characterised by a number of shallow gold prospects, I guess. What that tells us is that the Greenstone Belt as a whole is endowed. It's well endowed. There's opportunity all the way along that main shear zone that cuts through the middle of the Greenstone Belt. And there's probably more known gold to the south on the Neometals ground, but that's a function of how much work's been done. That doesn't mean that there's not going to be more found at the northern end where we are. So, we think we're in a really good geographical position, and the geology that we've seen so far backs that up.
Perfect. And let's move on to funding. The company recently secured $1.2 million via placement, bringing the pro forma cash position to 2.6 mil. How well funded is Breakthrough to deliver on its exploration plans?
Yeah, we're in a really good spot. We run the company very, very tightly. We don't have a lot of overheads and a lot of fixed costs. So we're aiming to get over 70% of our spend in the ground as real exploration dollars. So that gives, shareholders, that should give shareholders some confidence that the money that they're putting in is going to go in the ground and is going to go towards drilling and growing the company. With the money that we've got in the bank and the programs we've got lined up, I think that we're pretty well set up for at least the next, 6 to 12 months. Having said that, I would love to be in a position where, we've been so successful with our drilling that we need more money to keep funding and keep a rig going. So, but in the short term, we're really well placed.
Right. And what role will Breakthrough's technical team play in shaping and executing the exploration strategy moving forward?
Yeah, we'll do it all in-house. We've got access to a really strong exploration team, some guys that know gold. They know the gold fields in WA really well, and they know how to put these programs together. So again, when we're on the rig and when we're drilling, we'll have the ability to change the program a bit and to tweak things to make sure that we're maximising those dollars that get spent in the ground.
And finally, looking beyond this initial program, how does this acquisition fit into Breakthrough's broader growth strategy? And what can investors look forward to over the next coming months?
Yeah, this is very, very much a first step into gold for us. We think it's going to be strong for the next few years, and we're actively looking to build our position in Western Australia through acquisition and also through any kind of joint ventures or deals that we can do. We can leverage our good cash position at the moment and our really tight capital structure to attract other people to come to us. And we think there's a lot more opportunity out there for us to unlock.
Well, thanks, Will. I think that's all we've got time for today. If we didn't get to any of your questions, please feel free to reach out using the contact details listed at the bottom of our ASX announcements. Thanks again, Will, for joining us, and we look forward to hosting you all again soon.
Thanks, Chloe.